Welcome back, golf fans. Chris here with Jagerbombs Fantasy Sports, bringing you another DFS PGA preview show. This week, we got the Genesis Invitational. After a year away because of the Los Angeles wildfires, the event does return to Riviera Country Club. So we're going to break down the course. We're going to break down some of his top stats and kind of look at some of those player profiles that we will be looking for our DFS lineups this week. Before we get started, I'd like to let you know about a promotion that we got going on right now at Jagerbom's Fantasy Sports. If you use code Jager5, Jager number 5, what you're going to get is access to our all sports package, gives you cheat sheets, picks, ranks, scores, injury information, updated lineup information, everything that we offer for all of our sports for just $5 for the first month. In comparison, our PGA, any of our sports, just to cover one sport, is $15 a month, and that all sports package that you'll be getting for the first month is $25 a month. So $5. Take advantage of that and get in. You'll be able to see. You can see that link down below in the video description. It is patreon.com/Jagerbombs. And then, like I said, grab that all sports package and use code Jager5, and that will get you in. Without further ado, let's jump into the spreadsheet here. Let's talk a little bit about the course, and we will move on with some picks after that. Okay, so we move back to Riviera Country Club this week. It is in the top, I'd say probably in the top 20% in terms of scoring. It's right around that 12th position in terms of scoring difficulty. What we do see here at Riviera, it is bottom three in terms of driving accuracy, right around that 52%. And then greens in regulation, almost 10% below tour average when looking at the regular courses, sitting around 55% greens in regulation. So tough to hit the fairways, really small fairways, narrow fairways. The rough may not be tall. It's only listed at about 2 inches, but it's Kikuyu rough this week. So it is going to present, it's a little bit more unpredictable than other grasses in the rough. So going to be looking at that as well. And then in terms of greens and regulation, while the green sizes are a little bit bigger, actually the biggest green size on average of any event we've seen this season, they are very tough to hit because obviously there's not going to be a lot of guys hitting from the fairway, only around that 52% of the field on average. So that makes the greens, that's where that greens and regulation comes in a little bit lower. They're surrounded by some very strategic bunkering and undulations, which make it tough as well. So you're going to want a strong around the green, scrambling, stand saves this week, that sort of thing. This is the fourth course and closing out the West Coast swing. It's the fourth tournament on California. And then looking at the greens, they are POA this week. This is the fourth tournament of the year where we have seen the POA, so we do have some data for that as well moving forward as we break down and look at our models. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to jump over and we're going to have a look at the cheat sheet for this week. And we will dive right in. We've got the player, Scotty Scheffler, leading the way here at this elite field. It is another signature event. One little bit different. It is a player-hosted event. Tiger Woods hosts this event. So in those three events during the season, of these 8 signature events, there will be a cut, top 50 in ties, and anyone within 10 strokes of the lead after the second round. So keep that in mind. It will narrow the field down a little bit after day 2. So a little bit different than last week at Pebble, where it was just a straight no cut event. So something that we've added to the sheet this week, I'll scroll over here, is the signature events. Something that I wanted to add to it for a while I've been working on. So we've got a tab down here, signature event history, if you want to break down the results of the players in the field for every event and the signature events going back to the start of 2024 when they came in. It shows the place here, and then we've got some data. We've got the number of events, number of signature events they've played, how many wins, top 10s, the top 10 percentage, and average finish. First of all, Scotty Scheffler, absolutely insane. Like, you can just keep drawing stats after stats after stats to just show what era we're in here, the Scotty Scheffler era. He's played 14 signature events. He's got 5 wins, 13 top 10s in those 14 events, 93% top 10%. The next closest is 50% with Harry Hall and Ryu Hisatsune, both 4 and 2 events respectively. Sepp Straka would be close at 47% top 10, which is really good to see. We'll talk about him in a bit as well. And then we've got average finish in these signature events as well. I think this is important, and I have added it over here on the main tab so that we can kind of use it in our research on the same without having to switch tabs. And the other thing that I've done with that is add that to the overall model at the end here, signature events. And I put 20% weight on that signature event average finish because these events do play a little bit different. They are elite fields, similar to what we see at the majors, except for those majors also have cuts. So I wanted to separate them out a little bit and just look at those signature events. So I've got that data here to look at, as well as the course history, the current form, the raw data. Now these stats are the 2026 stats, so if you're breaking them down, and then we rank all the stats here and use that for our overall weights for the models in the of the stats, and then the overall model here. So we fit in that stats model, which comes from this orange section, as well as the course history, signature events, odds, DK value, which is just looking at something we didn't talk about last week as well, is just comparing where they are in the ranking of the outright odds board and compared with their DK and FanDuel salary rankings. And we'll talk about some players that stand out there. Let's go down the list here and just look at a few. For instance, Jake Knapp is a +5 on both DK and FanDuel, which we like to see. Anything in the pluses just means that their DK salary should probably be higher if it was based off of where the outright odds were. So we got Ludwig Alberg. He won last year, but it was at Torrey Pines, the Genesis Invitational Torrey Pines South last year because of those fires. So not really taking that into account. That does not in the course history here. That's why we started 2024 and not last year because it was a different course. Scrolling down a little bit more, a couple guys that really stand out. Taylor Pendrith here is a +9 on DK, +12 on FanDuel. Max Homa +6 on DK, +9 on FanDuel. Tony Finau, a really nice value over on FanDuel, and number one value on FanDuel according to the FanDuel to odds differential. And then Tom Hoagie is a +12, +15 on DK and FanDuel respectively there as well. So that's one way we can go ahead and use that. Just kind of points to some players that maybe their salary, you can find some value in that salary, gives you a little bit of upside there compared to what they are with outrights. Signature event, we'll sort this by average finish here and just have a look at some of these guys. Obviously, Scheffler, number one. Hisat Sune, number two. He's only played 2 events, so it's a very small sample for him. But he is coming off of a 8th place finish last week at Pebble Beach. We've got Patrick Cantley, who's got 5 top 10s in 17 events, 17.8 average finish. So as you can see here, 14th, 12th, 12th, 4th. So top 15s in 5 straight here. Nice to see that upside for him, that top 5, top 10 in there as well. So he's someone that we can maybe look to this week. His price is sitting at 9,300. Seems reasonable. So he is someone I'd probably be a little bit more as a secondary play for me and not a core play. Next up, we've got Rory McIlroy, 18.3 average finish, 2 wins in signature events, 4 top 10s. So he's been very up and down in terms of his signature event, but when he's there, he is getting those top finishes, and he's now coming back to a course here. Hasn't been great in the last 2, 24th and 29th. In 2024, it was a signature event. 29th in 2023. He did have top 10s in 3 of 4 events from 2019 to 2022. So there is some upside there. If there is someone, if you're fading Scotty this week, I think Rory McIlroy is going to be the way that we're going to go, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into some of the stats profiles. Colin Morikawa, 1 win, and we'll go back and we'll just have a look at that. That win came, I believe it was 2024. Oh, sorry, that was last week. My bad. He looked really good. His irons were spot on. Excellent approach game last week, and that was kind of coming off a miscut to start the year, and then close to a miscut, but a underwhelming performance the week before that. So seeing that breakthrough win, first win since I believe it was Zozo at 2023 for Morikawa. So a little bit of a breakthrough for him. Is he back? It really all depends on his putting and around the green game is kind of what's been holding him back. And I believe last week, while he was elite with his irons, it only took him, I think he lost maybe like 0.1 strokes putting. So even when he's just field average putting, he's going to contend. So hopefully that putting carries over to this week. I do really like his price at 9,400, kind of in that Patrick Cantley. I'll take Morikawa over Cantley. So my exposure will be a little bit more there to him. So course history, some of the guys, let's just sort it by last 5 events. You've got Max Homa, who's been doing really well at this event at Riviera Country Club. He's got a win in 2021, three other top fives, four top tens in there, and then a 16th in 2024. I'm pretty much staying away, even at that price of 7,100. Even seeing that there's some DK and FanDuel value there, he's just been not great whatsoever. And it's the around the green game that really scares me the most, especially here at Riviera, when you're really, if you're not going to be elite with your irons, you're going to have a rock solid scrambling and around the green short game, and I just don't think he's there. So that's not someone I'm looking at from a course history perspective. Jason Day, he let me down last week. He was a core play for me, but I'm going right back to the well this week at 7,700. Top tens in his last two trips here to Riviera. The results haven't been terrible. Going over and looking at the stats, he is an elite short game, and we're going to look at that here shortly as well. Some guys that kind of fit that profile. Harris English under 8K, 7th and 12th in his last two trips. He's been pretty meh, I guess you could say, over the last little bit to start the season and end last year. No real top results. So not real sure on him at this point. Victor Hovland, we always know he's excellent around the greens. He's had four straight top 20s here, top fives in 21 and 22. Scotty Scheffler hasn't won here, but as you can see, his form has been absolutely incredible. It's just like stands out, jumps off the page. So Scotty can always go, but 14-3, you have to make that decision again this week. Are we going Scotty and then filling up with three or four of those 6K guys, or are we going to go a little bit more balanced? Now, if you want to bet Scotty, one way to bet him, and I seen this on Twitter, it was quite funny. I wish I would have saved it, but a guy said he was teaching his kid um, how to invest, or a little delay there. In investing, they started with the S&P 500 and definitely ended on um, betting Scotty Scheffler top five finish after Thursday's round one lately has been excellent, because Scotty he's had a couple of subpar starts in terms of what he's expecting on Thursdays, the last two tournaments that he's been in, but he's came back and roared back to top five finishes in both those events, a third and a fourth over those two events. So it's been pretty incredible run for him. So never count Scotty out and just watch those live leaderboard or those live betting odds if he gets off to a bad start again, because you're going to want to get in there and at least put something down on a top five finish. Maybe not a win. I mean, those outright odds are going to be good, but you'll be looking pretty good at plus 100 or something like that. Maybe even 125, 150 on a top five finish for Scheffler after round one. So we're going to go now and we're going to look at some stats profiles here. This week, one thing I talked about is the approaches for the guys that are going to make it to the top. And we're actually going to go back and look at the 2024 Genesis here, and something that kind of stood out to me. We've got the full leaderboard and just general stats here, basic stats. And what I really wanted to look at was these field averages. So the field average for greens and regulation for that 2024 event was 57%. And the top 10, the guys that finished inside the top 10, I believe there was 15 of them. Yeah, 15 guys finished inside the top 10 in 2024. They were 63%, and only two of them were under 60% greens and regulation. So for me, the biggest place that players can gain an edge and climb that leaderboard, the guys that we're going to see on Sunday are guys that are going to have spot on iron play. A lot of that iron shots are going to come from the mid ranges. Probably for the most part, we're going to see the mid range. I mean, the course is a little bit longer. I think that the guys with distance aren't going to worry too much about hitting the fairway as much as they would in other courses. The rough isn't going to be as penal. It's going to be tricky in some spots, but they're going to know where to pick their spots, and they're just going to be bombing it down there. So generally, we're not going to see a lot of 200 plus yard approaches if we're breaking down these proximity buckets. I'm looking at more the 150 to 175, 175 to 200 range. For the shorter guys, obviously, we're going to be looking at the 175 to 200. And then the longer guys, you're going to be 150 to 175, maybe even dipping down. And if you're looking at a real big bomber, the 125 to 150 range. But generally, that 150 to 200 is where I'm going to be looking for my proximity buckets. But we will go and we will look at the guys who are tops in iron play, strokes gained approach to start the year. Rory McIlroy at the top. He's only got one event in, but his irons were rock solid last week. He had a win after the Tour Championship last year. He played on the DP World Tour. He had a win and I think 4 or 5 top fives in seven events, I believe. He had pretty solid irons there. I think over those events he had gained, I think it was on average like a half a stroke as well. So the irons were looking good there. Made his debut at Pebble last week. The putter let him down a little bit. He finished T14, but it's really good to see that those irons were on. So that's why if we're, I guess if we are, I'll just say I am fading Scotty and DFS this week, and just going with a little bit more balanced route. Rory McIlroy's at the top of my list. The proximity buckets, they didn't look great. Again, it is a very small sample. That 175 to 200, he was top 10. I believe he had 6 or 7 approaches from that distance last week. So that's really good to see. Siwoo Kim stands out next. I'm not sure. He kind of had a down week last week. He hasn't had great course history here, but those irons have been rock solid this season. Number one ball striker in the field, which is obviously you can see here is big on that strokes gained approach, and his proximity buckets pretty much across the board have been awesome. So you can definitely look to him. Probably more of a GPP play if you are going to Kim. I think his um, ownership percentage is going to go down after that last week. So I think if you wanted maybe a little bit of a contrarian play, getting back on Siwoo Kim, who doesn't have great course history, a lot of people aren't going to be going there because of that. A lot of people, in terms of that form last week, he probably got burned. He burned me last week. So with that in mind, I think he's someone that we can, and also his betting odds, he's been bet down to 31 here. So maybe I'm a little bit off that his ownership's going to be down. I just feel that the course history combined with that last week finish of burning a lot of people at fairly high ownership percentage, people will be off of him this week, and I think that's going to be a good route to go. Now I'm going to sort the sheet, just kind of see who's in that range with him. Yeah, you got Cantley right above him, Morikawa, I think Cam Young, Hovland, even going down to Jake Knapp here. So he kind of falls right in the middle of those guys. So I'm going to stand with what I say there, that he's going to be a little bit lower owned, at least lower owned than he was last week. A couple of other guys that stand out. Matt Fitzpatrick here. He is third in strokes gained approach in the season, second in ball striking. He's got pretty good proximity buckets in here as well. If he gets some long ones, he's doing good. The 200 plus, the 150 to 175, he's there. And then 35th is still better than average. So again, not going to be on him this week. The form is definitely getting there, back-to-back top 15 finishes. But one, he hasn't been great. He's only got one top 10 in 17 signature events. The average finish hasn't been great, and he hasn't been great here either. So that's someone that I probably won't be looking at. Colin Morikawa is up next, looking at those top five, 1.17 gained on strokes gained approach. The ball striking's been there. He's been good off the tee. We know that he's accurate off the tee. Good drive percentages up there, and good drive percentages just looking at greens in regulation for a player, and then the driving accuracy plus the greens in regulation when you're not hitting the fairway. So it kind of looks at guys that maybe if they're not hitting the fairway, are they still hitting greens in regulation? And he's right up there. 89% is elite in the field. Again, start of the season, so fairly small sample, but good to see he started well. Again, it's always going to come down to the putter for him. The short game is not great at all, but like I said, last week he was field average, losing he was right around that zero mark, maybe lost 0.1 strokes on the green and won the event. So his elite iron game, if it's there again, he's not going to need to be elite putting. He's just going to be about field average, and he's going to be right up there on the leaderboard once again. Matsuyama is someone that always stands out here. He won here in 2024. He's got top 10 finishes in 2019 and 2020. He started the year great. He's got 13th, 11th, a runner-up finish, and an 8th. He's been solid. He's got 2 wins on the signature events, 4 top 10s, and 25 average finish. And those irons. So what else I like to see is not only is he elite with his irons, he has also been, well, he's always been elite around the green. The putting's been solid this year, so he's 6th in short game, 5th in strokes gained approach. Matsuyama is someone that we're going to want to be looking at this week. And if he is laying back with his drives, he is 2nd in proximity from 200 plus. So that kind of rounds out the top 5 when looking. That is my top stat of the week is strokes gained approach. Short game is the other one that we want to look at here, guys, that maybe stand out, because if you're not going to be hitting the greens and you don't have elite irons, you're going to need to get up and down at a pretty elite level to stay in contention or even on the top half of the leaderboard here at Riviera. Tough conditions. Before we jump into short game, um, though, I wanted to quickly look at the weather to see if we have anything that we need to contend with. So we're going to get some rain overnight Tuesday and into the morning on Wednesday. So we may have some wetter conditions, something what we seen to last week at Pebble. We are going to see some rain Thursday afternoon. Um, so keep that in mind as well. And then the wind kind of gets up Thursday afternoon and then overnight and then kind of into the morning. So temperatures are down, as you can see, in the 50s and even down into the 40s on Friday. But as of now, if you're looking at kind of a wave distribution or a wave advantage, it is a small field, but the guys that are going out real early on Thursday are going to possibly avoid some of that rain and some of these winds if they get their round done, just shortly after lunch. So that would be one thing, especially Thursday showdown. Looking at the guys that are out real early. Because the temperature isn't really climbing that much, so we don't really have to worry about that. So they're going to avoid the wind and some of that rain. Friday, it's probably going to dry out a little bit, and the temperature it does get up as we move on in the day. So that Thursday AM, Friday PM is probably where I'm looking right now. All right, back to some stats profiles here. We will look at guys that stand out in terms of the short game. Number one, Tommy Fleetwood has been elite around the greens to start the year. He's 10-3. He's another guy I'll be looking at obviously, I'm fading Scotty. So Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood's right there. I probably even have more Tommy Fleetwood than McIlroy, $1,000 less here. It's going to be even a little bit more balanced to be able to fit at least another 9K and an 8K guy in there. So I definitely like that route. The putter's also been good as well. Jason Day, we talked about him. He's got an elite short game. He's been 12th around the green, third in strokes gained putting. Scotty Scheffler's been top 10 in both. So if he's not hitting greens, that really helps in, early on in the tournament when his irons aren't on, he's not hitting greens in regulation or he's not hitting putts. He's coming back with that elite around the green and putting. Jake Knapp, 19th in strokes gained around the green, second in putting. So his elite putting is someone I'm going to be looking at 8,600. His odds have dropped here as well. Signature events haven't been great for him, but he kind of feels like he's been a little bit of a brand new player, or at least playing a lot different than he did when those results started coming in. So he's coming off an 8th last week, so that's great to see. So 17th and 8th in his last two signature events. It was 2024 where he really struggled in these signature events. Struggled at the Tournament of Champions in 2025. Pebble Beach, he was 33rd, 17th. So he's been trending big time in the right direction. And with that, elite short game is a big reason why, I believe. And then he's number one in strokes gained off the tee. So he bombs it, which is really good to see. So his profile kind of fits for someone that isn't going to worry about hitting a lot of fairways. He's going to bomb it down there, get it on, and then not worry about, if he maybe has a bad lie off the tee for his second shot, he may miss the green. He's got an elite short game to make up for that. So he's probably not going to see a lot of bogeys. That bogey avoidance for him is 27th, so just a little bit better than average in this field. But that scrambling has him up there. Par fives, he crushes, so he'll take advantage of those for sure. So that's someone that I am looking at this week, down in that 86, kind of in that mid tier. Value, do we get back on Harry Hall? It's been a tough go. He had some good results. People were all over him, and then just kind of backed off. He's been a leader on the green, but really, what's been troubling him is those. He's had to have an elite short game just to keep him in some of these tournaments because the irons have just been so bad recently. So if he gets back on track with those irons, I believe he's someone that is going to come in low owned that can maybe, if he can pop off a top 20 at 7,400, I think there's a chance he could be in some winning lineups or at least near the top of some of those top 10 winning lineups in some of those contests. Matsuyama, we talked about already. He's got an elite with the irons as well as the lead around the green, and the putting has been well above average for him. So someone that's, again, we already talked about. Jacob Bridgman, 6,800, one of my top values here this week. He has been, 15th in strokes gained approach, which is awesome to see. Number one in putting. The around the green hasn't been great, but when you combine the approach and the putting, He's going to make a lot of birdies, and at 6,800, I like him again this week. Thagala let us down late in the event last week. The irons, the ball striking just hasn't been there, but he is elite around the green. Same story for Valimaki. Taylor Pendrith has been actually, of those three right there, kind of in that 62 to 72 range, kind of that $1,000 value range. Pendrith has been around average with his irons recently to start the season. The around the green and the putting, though, both top 15 in both in this field. So that puts him at 10th in terms of that short game. Someone I will be looking to at 7,200 because he bombs it down there as well, which is good to see. Kind of in the same manner as Jake Knapp with Pendrith, where I don't think they're worried about hitting fairways. With the short games that they have shown this year, they're just going to bomb it down there and get as close to the greens as possible for those little bit shorter approaches. And when you break down those players and their proximity buckets, I really like, just kind of average the 33rd. They're going to look 100 to 125, 125 to 150. So it hasn't been great. So they need to be on with their irons. But again, those elite short games are going to keep them at least close in contention. So those are some of the players that we're going to be looking at this week. Other things that you're going to find on this sheet, if you are new here, my playbook gets posted throughout the week. I'll be adding my players' top rankings for DFS here in each tier: the 9K plus, the 75, the mid range, and the value range. I post my DK Cash Core, GPP Core here as well. My betting is always there for everyone to see each and every week. So we've got McIlroy outright, Morikawa outright in top 10. If you want to read more about my betting card here, you can head over to fantraxhq.com. Every week I do Attacking the Green. It's a breakdown of the stats that I'm looking at each and every week, and then some of the best bets of the players that fit those stats. So you'll find all the players that are on my playbook with a little bit of explanation, a little bit of write-up for each of those. So head over to fantraxhq.com and find that Attacking the Green under the PGA heading to read a little bit more about that. We've got course information here. We've got a little bit more of a breakdown of course history, current form. Like I talked about the new signature event, which you're going to see at all the signature events this year. I've usually got some stats, like I was showing you here, general stats of the last 1, 2, 3 events at that course. Once the tournament begins, the information does not stop. We've got an ownership report for GPP and cash on DK, as well as over here, you're going to see it populate. You'll see live stats during the tournament, including scores, birdie or better, which kind of correlates with the pick six projections and the prop betting. The reason why I added that, it really helps out a lot with that. And then the model also updates, and I start adding in those live stats during the week. Look at what is correlating more to position on the leaderboard, what correlates more with making birdies, guys that are scoring for their props. And so this model will completely change once the tournament begins going into round 2. And if you have any questions, you can hit us up, leave a comment in the video below. You can hit us up on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. Or in our Discord channel. If you're not in that Discord channel and you don't have a copy of the sheet, like I said, we have a limited time offer for just $5 for the first month. You're getting access to our all sports package, which gives you not just all of our PGA content, but it gives you all the content for MLB that's upcoming, NBA, NHL, tennis, college basketball. Dane has been on fire in college basketball as we head into getting closer to March Madness. So make sure to check that out. Again, in for that, we've got NASCAR that started, and we cover trucks, the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, as well as the Cup series. We've got cheat sheets for that. We've got a live video that comes out on Sunday. So there's a ton of content for just $5 for that first month to come in and give us a try on all of our sports. If you decide to go with just maybe one sport, it's $15 a month after that. And if you decide to go with all the sports you like what you see, it's $25 a month after that. All right, that pretty much wraps everything up here for this week. So good luck to everyone. And again, we've got another day to kind of line up build here. So stay tuned to any news, weather updates, withdrawals, anything like that. I will have either on our Twitter account or in our Discord channels as well. So thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next week.